so lovingly, and then you see how insidious it is. There is the expectation, and if she goes beyond that expectation, there are consequences. Healthcare, you name it, women are on the forefront. But when they get home, they leave their progressive, empowered shoes out at the door.
Hello, and welcome to this 25th episode of Real and Real Characters. These are the days of women's empowerment. And yet, today, in many parts of the country, we find that women are being oppressed in subliminal ways, either consciously or unconsciously, being cornered into roles which they would not have probably chosen for themselves, and often at the expense of their dreams and ambitions. Our guest on Real and Real Characters, Professor Sally Nelson, is going to talk about a film which showcases such oppression. Sally Nelson is the Medical Science Director at Mitsubishi Tanabe Pharma America Incorporated, living in Jersey City, and the Associate Clinical Professor of Medicine at the University of Colorado, Denver. Sally plays a critical role in the ALS biomarker study, Radicava. She has served on the Medical Advisory Committee of the Muscular Dystrophy Association, has been a council member and vice president at the Society for Free Radical Biology and Medicine. She has been a senior scientist at several cutting-edge scientific studies in the area of neuromuscular diseases and in radical biochemistry, and has received several national and international grant awards from prestigious organizations such as the National Institute of Health and others. She has been an invited speaker at several prestigious scientific forums. The Great Indian Kitchen is a 2021 Indian Malayalam language film written and directed by Gio Baby. Nimisha Sajayan plays an educated dancer in an arranged marriage in a very traditional patriarchal family, being caught in the drudgery of domestic routines and an underlying male chauvinism. Sally, what really caught you about this film?
She was just this happy, beautiful person, dancing and really enjoying life, working together, cooking, and enjoying that relationship. And you see the slow but sure transformation. The men, you don't see them being cruel.
ചോറ് കുക്കറിലാ വെച്ച മോളെ ചോറ് മാത്രം അടുപ്പിൽ വെക്കണേ കണ്ടിട്ടോ.
He's saying it so lovingly, and then you see how insidious it is. The father-in-law makes very clear that he does not like his clothes washed in a washing machine.
മോളെ വാഷിംഗ് മെഷീൻ ഇട്ടാല് തുണി പൊടിഞ്ഞു പോകൂലേ? ഇന്റത് അതിൻ്റെ അകത്തിടണ്ടേ?
She has to do it by hand, and everything is delivered in a very sweet tone. She does not like the rice being cooked in the pressure cooker, but she wants it cooked in the wood stove. All these little things, it's all controlling. They have to do it the way he likes to eat it. You know, that's the aggression or the passive aggressive nature of this whole relationship. She applies for this job, and the mother-in-law, she actually encourages her to apply.
മോൾ എന്തായാലും അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യും. കിട്ടുമെന്ന് നമുക്ക് അറിയില്ലല്ലോ. ഇനിയിപ്പോ കിട്ടിയാല് അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് എന്താ വേണ്ടച്ച ചെയ്യാം.
ഓക്കെ
മോളെ നോക്ക്, ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞോന്ന് ആരോടും പറയരുത് കേട്ടോ.
ഇല്ല അമ്മ.
ശരി മോളെ, വെക്കട്ടെ.
The father-in-law gets this letter in the mail.
ഇതെന്താ മോളെ?
ഇന്റർവ്യൂ ലെറ്ററാ.
The transformation is so quick on that man's face. He turns around and so smilingly talks to her.
നമ്മളന്ന് പറഞ്ഞല്ല മോളെ വേണ്ടാന്ന്. ഇവിടുത്തെ അമ്മ MA വരെ പഠിച്ചതാണ്. മോള് ജോലിക്ക് പോണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. അന്ന് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ അച്ഛൻ പറഞ്ഞത് കേട്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ടെന്താ മക്കളെല്ലാം നല്ല നിലയിലായി.
He raises her up to this, bringing in Lakshmi or whatever it is to the household, and the prosperity of the house depends on her.
വീട്ടിലൊരു പെണ്ണുള്ളത് വീടിനൊരു ഐശ്വര്യ.
And makes it sound like this wonderful situation, wonderful job she has.
കളക്ടർമാരും മന്ത്രിമാരും ഒക്കെ ചെയ്യുന്നതിനേക്കാളും വലുതല്ലേ നിങ്ങളൊക്കെ ചെയ്യുന്നത്?
But at the same time, you're thinking to yourself, well, he's just telling her this is not going to work. You're going to be in the kitchen. You're not going out there to work, right? I mean, that's unthinkable. So he delivers that to her in a very sweet tone. Even her husband does that. Whatever he asks so nicely.
എന്നോട് എപ്പോഴെങ്കിലും പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടോ അന്ന ജോലിക്ക് കൂടില്ല? ഉണ്ടോ? അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എന്നോടെല്ലാം പറഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ല അന്ന അങ്ങോട്ട് കൂട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടുവന്നു.
They only show them serving food to the men all the time. To leave so much crap around your plate, first of all, is disgusting. She actually provides a side dish for them to put the waste from the food into the side, but they don't use it. There is the expectation, and if she goes beyond that expectation, there are consequences. At the restaurant, they're actually sitting side by side. He actually puts the waste in the side dish that's provided.
അപ്പോൾ പുറത്തു വന്നായിട്ടിന് ടേബിൾ മാനേഴ്സ് ഒക്കെ അറിയാലേ? അല്ല, ടേബിൾ മാനേഴ്സ്.
അതെന്താ കുഴപ്പം? അത് എൻ്റെ മാനേഴ്സിന് എന്താ കുഴപ്പം?
അല്ല ഏട്ടാ, ഇവിടെ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് വേസ്റ്റ് ഇട്ട് അവിടെ
വീട്ടിലെന്താ പ്രശ്നം? എൻ്റെ വീട് എൻ്റെ സൗകര്യം, എനിക്കിഷ്ടമുള്ള പോലെ ഞാൻ ചെയ്യും.
He gets so upset about it that he's going to wait for the opportune moment to bring that up, which he does.
ഈ പറഞ്ഞത് തെറ്റാണെന്ന് എനിക്ക് ബോധ്യമുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഈ എന്നോട് സോറി പറ.
Only if she did apologize, there would be peace in the house.
So he wants this thing settled so he can go on and do his business. I mean, that scene, I thought it was so telling of men who violate a human being at night when the lights are turned off, but will not talk about sex with her.
ഏട്ടാ, നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യൂലേ? അപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് നല്ല പെയിൻ ഉണ്ട്. കുറച്ച് ഫോർ പ്ലേയും കൂടെ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ എനിക്ക്
ഇതിനെ കുറിച്ച് എല്ലാം അറിയാല്ലേ?
എന്ത്?
ഫോർ പ്ലേ.
He doesn't say it in an aggressive manner, but reducing her to shame. And it's sad that she had to address that and then feel ashamed that she brought it up. I mean, who else is she going to discuss this with? It's society-sanctioned rape of women, and she has no voice in it.
Another thing which actually struck me was the complete uncaring attitude towards cleanliness. It's almost symbolic of the dirt within, you know. And then there is that seepage below.
ഏട്ടാ, ഏട്ടാ.
You remember that last scene where she finally walks out and she goes home and her mother is not very happy about it.
ഞാൻ കൊണ്ടുവിടാം. മാപ്പ് പറഞ്ഞു ആ വീട്ടിൽ കയറിക്കോണം.
Her brother comes in the house.
ചേച്ചിയെപ്പറ്റി അമ്മ എനിക്ക് കുറച്ച് വെള്ളം കൊണ്ടാ.
ഒരു ഗ്ലാസ് വെള്ളം എടുത്തു.
It's so natural. She turns around and tells the other daughter, can you get him a glass of water?
കുറച്ച് വെള്ളം.
ഇരിക്കടി അവിടെ. നിനക്ക് എന്താണ് ഒച്ചയ്ക്ക് വെള്ളം എടുത്ത് കുടിച്ചാ?
That's the only time you see her visibly upset because she's seeing the next generation of men. It wasn't overt. It's just like this slow poisoning of this woman. She came in with so much life and they just sapped every last bit of it from her.
Very often, women don't really realize that something is going wrong till it's too late. Where does this begin? In the mother's upbringing?
He's been waited on hand and foot by the mother, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the men don't do anything at home. It's the women who have to make the change. They boast of all kinds of, progressive women in leadership positions and in the government and in healthcare, you name it, women are on the forefront. But when they get home, They leave their progressive, empowered shoes out at the door.
Indra, you run a company with 300,000 employees, almost $70 billion in revenues.
And I was working in the office. I worked very late, and we were in the middle of the Quaker Oats integration or the acquisition. And I got a call at about 9:30 in the night from the existing chairman and CEO at that time, and said to me that, Indra, we're going to announce you as president and put you on the board of directors of PepsiCo. I mean, I was overwhelmed. I decided to go home and share the good news with my family. So I got home at about 10, parked the car, got into the garage, and my mother was waiting at the top of the stairs. And I said to her, Mom, I got great news for you. And she said, well, then let the news wait. Can you go out and get some milk? I said to Mom, look, I looked in the garage. Looks like my husband is home. What time did he get home? She said, 8 o'clock. I said, why didn't you ask him to buy the milk? Because he's tired. Okay, he's tired. He's tired.
Women have just been so beat into them that at home, you're the master of the kitchen and the household work. And the man goes out to work, brings in the money.
Like a dutiful daughter, I went out and got the milk and came back. I sort of banged it on the counter and I said, I had great news for you. I've just been told that I'm going to be president and on the board of directors, and all that you want me to do is to go out and get the milk. What kind of a mom are you? And she said to me, let me explain something to you. You might be president of PepsiCo, you might be on the board of directors, but when you enter this house, you're the wife, you're the daughter, you're the daughter-in-law, you're the mother, you're all of that. Nobody else can take that place. So leave that damn crown in the garage and don't bring it into the house.
Women are conditioned to believing this is the role.
What is it like in the West, Sally, in the United States of America, for example?
You share all the chores at home, whether wife is working outside the home or not. My son, he likes to cook. She cleans up. The role is not designated a woman's role or a man's role. There are lots of families here who abuse women, physically abuse women, except that there's a very strong system in helping the women who are abused. When I talk about inequalities, it's very, very subtle. It comes from the workplace. You can be more than qualified than the people sitting at the conference table with you. Men talk so much during meetings that they don't give the women equal time or consideration to give their point of view. So then you have to be aggressive enough to get in there and you say what you have to say. Sometimes you're cut off in finishing your thought. They never cut men off in the middle of a sentence. You could be more qualified than the man applying for the job, but very often the man gets the job. And your paycheck is a percentage lower than what the man makes.
What is this due to? Insecurity?
And also jealousy is another thing. The woman might be doing much better professionally than the man. The only way he feels, empowered is by making her suffer.
In the current scenario, the scale seems to tilt towards the women in a marriage.
நாங்க இன்னைக்கு ஜூட்டிக்கா போல்டா இருக்கிறதுனால தான் வரனே கிடைக்க மாட்டேது.
சரியான மாப்பிள்ளை அமையல.
எங்களோட நீங்க கொண்டு வாங்க இன்னைக்கு எங்களோட இன்டெலெக்சுவல் லெவலுக்கு, எங்களோட காம்பிடன்ஸ் லெவலுக்கு, எங்களை மாதிரி போல்டா அவேர்னஸ் நல்லா வச்சுட்டு மல்டி டாஸ்க் செஞ்சுக்கிட்டு ஒரு மாப்பிள்ளை கொண்டு வாங்க. நாங்க இன்னைக்கே கல்யாணம் பண்ண ரெடியா இருக்கோம். நாங்க மலை உச்சியில உட்கார்ந்துட்டு இருக்கோம். நீங்க பாதாளத்துல இருக்கீங்க. எப்படி முடிச்சு போட முடியும்? ஒரு சாஃப்ட்வேர்ல ஒர்க் பண்ணணும், கை நிறைய சம்பாதிக்கணும், 6 மணி ஆனா வீட்டுக்கு வந்து ஆப்போசிட் தரணும். இப்படின்னா எப்படி நடக்கிற காரியமா இது?
If women are being aggressive, I think it's long overdue. Now, when they see women being more independent and becoming more vocal about what they want, then there's an uproar.
Do you personally know of anyone who has gone through a tough time in marriage?
My friend gets married to this man in India, and he brings her here. She cannot talk on the phone. She cannot have any friends outside the home. She was pretty much jailed in the house. He locked her outside in the building and locked the door from the inside of the building so she couldn't get back in. And she stayed outside. I mean, in the US, it can get pretty cold at night. And, she was left there all night. She said something sharply to him once, and she was pregnant. And he made her stand in the corner of the room and think about it all night long. She has a PhD in Sanskrit. Her family, absolutely zero support. It's like, you're married, it's their problem.
Why was she not able to handle this kind of abuse? This kind of cultural abuse is really insidious.
In our church, the women have to cover their heads. Tell me why you want me to cover your head. He said, women's hair is glorious. So I have to make sure that I am not distracting the man. I said, that's ridiculous. I said, did you want us to be in a burqa when we all come to church so you don't have to see anything? This is what happens in the Middle East, right? We have to make changes so he can control himself. All educated women can walk out of the church, and we'll teach our children not to go to this church. You choose. And then they actually changed the constitution of the church.
In the end of the film, the next woman comes into that man's life as his second wife, and the same treatment is perpetuated.
Exactly. She's perpetuating that same vicious cycle over and over and over again.
Today, women are being empowered to handle tough situations. But are the men being empowered to handle such women? When and how do they learn that? In this context, Sally, what do you have to say to parents, to mothers, to sons, to children?
I think it comes from our own training of our sons. We have to teach sons to be respectful of women. We've got to stop glorifying boys. Child was a daughter. I catch myself too when I talk about my son. He cooks and he takes care of the kids and he works full time. And so I was saying that to somebody. So a friend of mine turned around and said, "Oh, you have your son, you have these feelings." The way it was perceived was exactly what I'm trying to avoid. It's so subtle, and I have to watch myself as well. I mean, if we don't, as women, teach the next generation, there's no end to this. We have to make the change.
Mothers have to take heed of this warning and bring up their sons well, I guess.
It's thought-provoking for the men, but it's more of, a call to action for the women.
Thank you, Sally. I hope more women become more conscious of themselves and come into their own.
Thank you, Raji. If we feel that change has to happen, it has to come from us. We cannot lecture to the men and say pointing fingers, what you're doing is wrong. Obviously, it's wrong. I think what works is from you making a change and making sure you are a good role model and a mentor to the women in your life, the children, the sisters, the nieces, the nephews, whoever it is. It has to come from us.
Today, we have come a long way from the oppression and subjugation of yesteryears. Girls are shining in every field. They're faring better than boys in exams. And yes, there is discrimination, but one cannot deny that women have come a really long way. However, a word of caution here. While it is completely justified for a woman who is going through such oppression to walk out of that situation, my lawyer friend tells me that at least 500 cases of divorce are being filed in court every day. Are all these cases justified? Is it all right for a woman who feels empowered to walk out of her family? For example, let us take the movie The Great Indian Kitchen. Yes, the girl has been drawn into a vortex of oppression, but instead of walking out of that situation, just suppose, she just turned around and told her father-in-law in the same sweet manner that he spoke to her that she would not cook on the wood stove, that she would use the gas stove instead, that she would not make chutney on a stone grinder, but she would use the facility of the mixer grinder, and that she would not wash the clothes by hand, but she would use the washing machine, and that the men had to participate in the chores of the house, and that she would take the job that she had been offered, that maybe she would even bring her dance students and conduct her dream dance classes right in that very space. I know of a young, uneducated girl who got married into a patriarchal agricultural family, and when the situation arose, she actually, through a lot of difficulty, took up to run the farm and the agriculture, learned how to do it on the job, increased the yield and the income, and earned the respect of her family. It was difficult, of course, but she did it. Challenges are everywhere, in corporate jobs even. But the one who stands out is the one who stands tall and strong and holds their own despite all the negativities around. By walking out of the situation in the movie, the girl only gave way to the next woman coming into the same household and the same situation being perpetrated. That's not a solution. In the name of women's empowerment, many families are breaking up. Older people are finding themselves living alone. And while it takes a village to raise a child, there are more and more single parent families. So what is the modern concept of women's empowerment? Is it to be able to smoke and drink and use words and behave in exactly the same way that men do? Does it make them equal to the men? Is that what is empowerment? What do women lose in this process? What about their femininity, the grace, the dignity, the nobility, and the care and nurturing that is so innate to women's natures? Isn't it time that real empowerment is driven by real intelligence? And that women realize that it is in their hands that lies the power of personal strength, of family bonding, and a better future for their children. Thank you for watching Real and Real Characters. If you wish to participate in this program, please call the number given below.